Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield, Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.
Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz. Mottek On Money, live on the air, 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com. And, yep, the on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple iTunes, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. Volatile week for the stock market as well as cryptos. Rough week for Bitcoin and other cryptos. We'll be focused on that here coming up shortly. We did see a rebound for the stock markets today as President Trump eased concerns of further trade escalation with China. A week ago today, we saw the Dow plunge about 900 points, and that was a rough Friday. And since then, it's been volatile, especially in the crypto space. Gold and silver, meanwhile, this past week hit record highs. Suddenly, regional bank issues have bounced back into the forefront. Looks like the regional bank stocks began to recover from the significant losses we saw yesterday on new investor jitters over bad loans and credit quality. Bitcoin falling the lowest levels we've seen since June, with investors getting out of risky assets in the face of those bad bank loans hitting the banking industry. Whether this is crypto-related in some way remains to be seen, like it was a couple years ago when we had that mini bank issue. They were reluctant to call it a banking crisis at that time. We did see the key index tracking regional banking stocks, the KBW, NASDAQ Regional Banking Index, up about 1.5% after falling yesterday by about 6%, the worst single-day pullback since the height of the tariff turmoil that we saw last April. Looks like consumers are under pressure at the new and used car lots. Consumers struggling under the weight of soaring auto debt. Auto delinquencies reported to be up more than 50% since 2010. And looks like that's the latest report from Vantage Score on what's happening with the consumer. The Dow coming in for a closing gain today of 238 points. Let's get to some good news here. The S&P 500 of 35 and the NASDAQ of 117 points. The volatility index, which spiked again this week, pulled back 18% today. Looks like for the week, the major averages ended higher for the week by about 2%. President Trump said talks with China were going well, and his meeting with the Chinese leader would go forward. There was some drama about that earlier this week. The president's remarks following earlier comments in which he said the 100% tariffs he had threatened to add to existing tariffs on Chinese goods starting November 1st would not be a sustainable level for each side's economy. Of course, earnings news also a big part of the week. The government shutdown is dragging on, now tied for the third longest in history. Some Washington lawmakers now concerned the stoppage could extend into November, maybe even past Thanksgiving. And federal workers' paychecks remain suspended as the president threatens to block back pay, and the courts now consider the president's efforts to fire thousands of federal workers. We'll get an L.A. Main Street view of what's happening out there with tariffs, the job front, the shutdown of the whole works, coming up later this hour with Mark Wilbur, chairman of Employers Group here in Los Angeles, founding member and former chair of L.A. BizFed, and former associate dean of the USC Marshall School of Business. A lot going on in the commercial real estate world in Los Angeles these days. Some big transactions this week. Drama over the ULA tax in Los Angeles in the face of the rebuilding efforts continuing very slowly. And what's going to happen with graffiti towers in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. We'll get an update on all that, a comprehensive update on commercial real estate this hour with Jerry Sullivan, national managing editor of The Real Deal, the authoritative commercial real estate news site. Jerry, by the way, was previously editor of the LA LA Business Journal as well as the OC Business Journal. But first, a rough week for crypto following last Friday's washout, a rebound, and another pullback later in the week. And here we are now on Friday, heading into the weekend, and joining us live now is Eleanor Terrett, business journalist, highly sought-after conference speaker, including many crypto gatherings here in the Los Angeles area, also co-host of the Crypto in America podcast. Eleanor Terrett, thank you very much for taking the call live with us here this afternoon.
Thanks for having me, Frank. I'm headed back to New Jersey from D.C. after another conference, so you got that right.
That's fantastic. I want to hear more about that, but first, a rough week for those in the crypto space here. Bitcoin, let me take a look. Back to around 107,000 here after hitting the record high not too long ago of above 126,000. People were in high cotton there, and then in feeling it this week. Give us your assessment of what just happened this past week.
That's right. So let's take it back a little bit to last Friday, and we can kind of go from there. So we were up and we were down this week, but sort of the hallmark of the crypto markets kind of started, this bad downtrend started with last Friday, which saw the largest single-day liquidation event in crypto's history. Actually, they called it the crypto flash crash, and it was sparked by President Trump's surprise 100% tariff threat on China, which rattled the markets, as I'm sure you know, Frank, because it rattled the traditional markets as well as the crypto markets. It sent Bitcoin crashing down as much as 15%, Ethereum over 20%, and Solana as much as 40%. And it wipes out about $20 billion completely from the crypto markets. But Monday prices bounced back, and I think everybody was a little bit shocked to see that. Bitcoin recovered to around 115,000, which was near pre-crash levels. But today you're seeing them back down again. And I think that's in response to something that you said in the opening there. It seems to be linked to growing credit issues in the U.S. banking sector. Zion Bancorp disclosed a $50 million loss due to a bad loan. Western Alliance said it would sue a borrower for alleged fraud. There's been a couple of other instances that seem to kind of be having an effect on the Bitcoin price. And I've said a couple times on this show, Bitcoin prices tend to follow a little bit more of a macro trend these days. Whatever Bitcoin does, the other coins seem to follow. So we can kind of see that trend, rising tide lifts all boats, but also a sinking tide kind of sinks all boats, as we see with this market at the moment. But despite the magnitude of the event last week, Frank, experts are calling it a minor blip, and that it was mainly just isolated to individual traders. I mentioned that $20 billion loss, and there were no major collapses of any of the big exchanges or any of the major trading infrastructures. So that's a positive. But remember when I said a healthy crypto bull market sees swings of 40% or more? This is exactly what I mean. So you've got the bears and you've got the bulls. Some people are saying, this is the end, and others are saying this is just a blip in the market. So we will see what next week brings.
See you tonight. Read about it tomorrow, but hear it now on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. I'm the air live with Eleanor Tarrant, business journalist and co-host of the Crypto in America podcast, and a great contributor to this program. And it's hard to believe it was more than 2 years ago. It was in March of 2023. This year went by in the blink of an eye. It was already back in March of 23 when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. This was, in fact, the biggest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis a couple of years ago, and that was somewhat attributed to being crypto related. Are we starting to get some indication that some of this latest banking concern is crypto related once again?
Well, I don't think so, Frank, only because that the crypto banks that were crypto-related, the ones that went down in 2023, there haven't been any crypto banks since then, only because, the ones that were taken down at the time were the only ones that were related to crypto. And since then, it's been notoriously hard for crypto to get part of to get into the banking system as a result of that. You saw the crypto winter where FTX fell, and then the 2023 regional banking crisis. And after that was during the Biden administration. And, the Fed kind of closed its doors. You saw the FDIC and the OCC really, really get tough when it came to crypto, trying to get into the banking system. They really just were super tough on that. You saw Operation Choke Point 2.0, which a lot of the industry referred to as, basically the cutting off of bank accounts and the closing of doors to crypto businesses who wanted to get banked. You're seeing a lot of that ease up now under the Trump administration. And actually today, so there was some big news. A crypto-friendly bank called Erebor. It's an ode to a Lord of the Rings mountain, actually. And it's funny because it's backed by Palmer Luckey, who also has another company that is named after a Lord of the Rings entity. Joe Lonsdale, who is a partner of Peter Thiel, who has Palantir. Palantir is also Lord of the Rings, a thing in Lord of the Rings as well. It's pretty funny, as all these Lord of the Rings references. But basically, their big crypto bank, Erebor, got a conditional approval from the OCC today, Frank. And why does this matter? It matters because for the first time, a crypto-affiliated bank may soon be able to operate as a full-service depository institution. And this is interesting because you did see those regional bank failures in 2023. You saw the choking off of the crypto industry from the major banking services. And this would be the first time a crypto bank could offer lending and payment services. And it also has an FDI insurance application pending. And so Erebor plans to actually serve high net worth individuals, tech firms that struggled to get banked after Signature, Silvergate, and Silicon Valley Bank collapsed in 2023. So you're seeing a resurgence there. So it's quite an interesting, maybe full circle moment.
Wow, very interesting, and thanks for highlighting that. So we're going to be hearing more about Erebor, which I just had to look it up. In the Lord of the Rings, the mountain is called by the Sindarin, is that right? Name Erebor. Apparently, that's one of the languages there in the Lord of the Rings, which I'm not an expert on, but you could correct me as we go along here on that. So we'll add that to our crypto vocabulary here. You speak fluent crypto, so we appreciate that, and that is certainly going to be an important word in the banking space here now. So I know you talk about digital gold, but it was analog gold that had a good week. Old-fashioned gold hitting record highs, getting up to around 4,300. And silver also hit a record high, blowing past 50 an ounce for the first time since 1980 and hitting record highs up around $52, $53 an ounce. It looks like silver right now is just below 51 an ounce. Looks like gold at 4,267. Based on your Crypto in America podcast and the people that you interact with, is the money coming out of crypto going into good old analog gold?
I think it goes both ways, and you've got your people who call Bitcoin digital gold, right? And one of those people is Larry Fink, Frank. And you remember back in 2017 how he called Bitcoin an index of money laundering, and now he calls it digital gold. Well, he's actually on to the next thing. His next target is tokenization. And for those listeners that don't know what that is, it's essentially taking a traditional financial asset and making a representation of it on the blockchain. And I'm sure you reported on this week, but BlackRock had its earnings. And it reported it's a $13.5 trillion asset manager now, which is the biggest, it was already the biggest, but continues to be the biggest asset manager in the world. And some of that came from its ETF revenue. The ETF revenue topped $5 trillion for the first time. $100 billion of that came from its Bitcoin ETF alone. But Fink says he sees BlackRock starting to put things like real estate, equities, bonds on the blockchain. Mind you, this is the world's largest traditional asset manager. He wants to go completely digital. He revealed that BlackRock is working on its own in-house tokenization technology. But you might be asking, why would you do this? But the answer is putting things on blockchain allows for fractional ownership, faster settlement, and 24 access to the markets. Because you and I have talked about this. Monday through Friday, the markets are open. Friday through Sunday, they're closed. This could open investing to people who normally couldn't afford it, and also get younger investors excited about investing in traditional assets, some of those like retirement assets that you kind of get into when you're a little bit older, but getting a younger retail crowd in there is something that Larry Fink is very excited about. He calls it repotting of traditional assets in a digital ecosystem. So I thought that was a great visual of Larry Fink as the gardener, wouldn't you say, Frank? You can kind of imagine him with his gardening spade and his watering the markets in his pots. I don't know. I thought it was a great visual.
Doing that repotting, we're gonna get that one in there too. Now we're gonna be hearing that word too. Now let me ask you something that you just reminded me of. That was just about a day or so ago. Tom Lee, who I'm sure you probably have talked to, longtime analyst and chairman of the leading DAT BitMine, said that the bubble might have already burst when it comes to these DATs, digital asset treasuries. What's your reaction to that news? This is what these treasuries that involve cryptocurrency, and a lot of companies are getting into it.
Yeah, that's right. And it's interesting coming from Tom Lee, right? Because he has his own digital asset treasury firm. He has the leading digital asset treasury firm of Ethereum, right, which is the number 2 token on the market. So I thought that was interesting coming from him. And he's kind of speaking, probably the unspoken word of what a lot of people have actually been saying behind the scenes when it comes to digital asset treasury companies. Michael Saylor obviously had the first with Strategy. There's been multiple digital asset treasury companies that have followed, and it's not just Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's XRP, was an XRP announcement about a treasury company. involving them that launched today, Solana, you name it. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of speculation that this might be a bubble, and like as you mentioned, Tom Lee said it might have burst. So we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting concept. I don't think it will stop people from launching them and investing in them, but I guess we'll have to see where we are in the next maybe year or so on that front.
All right, since you're on the front line, anything else coming across your desk that we should know about here?
Yeah, well, I thought an interesting one this week was we might have a bit of a read on how much President Trump has actually made from his various crypto ventures. According to the Financial Times, he might have made over $1 billion now from his various crypto businesses. And in case you forgot how many of those there are, there's the meme coins, there's Trump and Melania meme coins, there's a stable coin, there's trading cards, and there's a DeFi platform called World Liberty Financial, which was co-founded by his sons, Eric and Don Jr. The Financial Times says that World Liberty's token alone pulled in $550 million this year. So this is all kind of set up against the backdrop of, Trump is the crypto president, but he's done a lot for the industry, obviously including installing crypto-friendly regulators, cutting red tape, and letting Americans invest their retirement funds in crypto, although that hasn't started yet. That's set to start, potentially in the coming months to coming years. But there's a lot of questions around this, Frank, his business ventures and just how much he may be profiting off of it, while he's kind of blessing it. But no, we might have some idea of actually how much he might be making now. So, bit of an interesting scoop from the FT there.
That is very interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that as well. Maybe we can go down a few of these names here and what your market monitors are saying about Bitcoin. Is there talk that it's going to go to 100,000 or maybe lower? It's a lot more fun when this thing goes up, of course. But it's been a rough week right now at around 107 here. Where does Bitcoin go from here?
We're at 107 now. I will continue to say what I mostly say on this program is that there are bulls and bears that I talk to every single day about this market, and I think it's in an interesting place right now. We're obviously waiting for a market structure bill, which will hopefully come out of the Senate. Will pass the Senate and hopefully pass the House by the end of the year. A lot is hinging on that at the moment. That'll put a lot of certainty back into the market, I think, for these TradFi companies and traditional investors to get the confidence to get involved in the crypto market. You'll probably see a lot more liquidity flow into that once something like that is passed. And I think on the whole, cycles come, cycles go, and I'm just going to say, number go up, Frank. Mm-hmm. We'll see.
It's more fun when it goes up, but a reminder this week that it goes up and down. So what about Ethereum? What about Ethereum? We're at 38.50 here, I think. 38.50.
Well, I think Ethereum's all-time high. I don't think it's ever broken 5,000, but I want to say its all-time high was just over 4,500, which only happened a couple of weeks ago. So, these cycles are they're so short and sharp, right? I mean, XRP only a couple months ago was up over like $3.50. It's now down at $2.31. So, I could see prices being very different, in only a short matter of months. I'm sure if market structure passes, there may be some kind of boost. And also, you have to keep an eye on Trump's Twitter account, Frank, because his Truth Social account, because any kind of tweet from him, usually, if it's about crypto, and sometimes it's about specific cryptos, he talked about the Bitcoin reserve, that usually gives the crypto markets a boost, which says a lot about the crypto market, in my opinion. But there's small catalysts here and there, so we could see.
All right. Was the mood different at your conference today compared to last week? A lot of bullish enthusiasm last week with all kinds of wild predictions that we heard. What was the mood of the conference you attended today?
So it was DC FinTech Week, and it was held over 2 days, one at Amazon's headquarters on Wednesday and at the National Union Building downtown in DC yesterday. And the mood, as ever, was positive. I mean, a lot of different conversations surrounding, kind of what's next, what's the next big move in crypto. We talk about stable coins, we're talking about tokenization. There's a big fight right now in DC between the banking lobby and between the crypto lobby over the this thing called stablecoin yield, which basically is, the banks don't want the crypto exchanges to be able to offer customers, rewards on their holding their stablecoins. it's a big thing. We're going to be able to see, kind of where that goes in the next few weeks to months. So a lot of conversations around that, a lot of conversations around, Bitcoin's price, where that's going. But as ever, in this environment, it's optimistic. We did talk about that crash last week, but as I said, it's, I think the larger sentiment is that it was just a blip in the market, and these things happen, but everybody is sort of moving onwards and upwards from it.
All right, terrific. Well, Eleanor, thank you very much for that thorough assessment here, and hope to connect again next week when we'll watch what happens this weekend. Eleanor Tarrant, business journalist, highly sought-after conference speaker, and co-host of the Crypto in America podcast. We wish you a great weekend, Eleanor, and thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
You too, Frank. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too, and let's get out to the freeways now. Gorgeous afternoon here in Southern California on 790 KABC. All right, Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC. Good afternoon. A little bit of a ray of sunshine here to close out the week on Wall Street. The Dow up 238 points today, back to 46,191. The S&P 500 of 35 at 6,664. NASDAQ up 117 to 22,680. And we see for the week, the major averages were up about 2.5%. And gold moving higher this week to record highs, right now hovering at 4,267 and change. Silver at 50.62 after getting even higher earlier in the week, up 3% for the week for silver. Taking a look at NVIDIA, the magnificent one, up $1.41 today at 183 and change. Oracle pulling back nearly 22 today to 291.31. Rough week for the cryptos. We see a Bitcoin right now hovering at around 107,000, Ethereum at 38.50, Solana at 183, and Doge at 18 cents. And now the latest news on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC. Turning now to real estate here in the Los Angeles area. A lot going on in the commercial real estate world. Some big transactions this week. Also drama over the so-called mansion tax, the ULA tax here in Los Angeles. In the face of the rebuilding effort, getting new attention, will it be suspended at least? That remains to be seen. And what's going on with graffiti towers in the heart of downtown Los Angeles? Let's call on the expert on all this, and that is Jerry Sullivan, commercial real estate expert, also national managing editor of The Real Deal, the authoritative commercial real estate news site. Jerry Sullivan.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield, Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.
Bruin fans, fall is finally here. That means UCLA football is back in your life. Head out to the Rose Bowl to enjoy America's best tailgating and to make more unforgettable memories with the Bruins. Nico Iamaleava and the Bruins are ready to make an impact this year, and we need you cheering them at the Rose Bowl. Visit UCLABruins.com or call 310-UCLA-WIN to lock in your tickets today. 310-UCLA-WIN.
Action.
Next Roll is a groundbreaking podcast created and executive produced by Vernon Davis.
This is where we talk about reinvention.
The series explores the transformative journeys of athletes, artists, comedians, and entrepreneurs.
They don't just stop here. They just keep going.
Next Roll isn't about what's next. It's about why they do it, how they overcome fear, and the resilience it takes to keep evolving at the highest level.
That's what it's all about. Stay tuned.
Next Roll with Vernon Davis. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The way previously, it is to be noted, was editor of the LA Business Journal and the OC Business Journal, so he knows LA and Orange County very, very well. And Jerry, thank you very much for taking the call here again this afternoon.
Pleasure, Frank. Good to be with you.
Yep, big news week. Take it from the top and tell us about what's happening on your desk there, what's coming across your desk with the latest news and these big transactions you've been reporting about.
There's some big transactions, some movement on, or at least talk about movement on Measure ULA, as you mentioned, the mansion tax. Let's start with Leo Postolnikov, the recent buyer of the original Pantry. Also joined with a couple partners recently to buy the Pac Mutual building. Our Elena Botras reported on that, got the exclusive, and that's kind of a little gem of a building nestled up against the Millennia, the Biltmore downtown, and really, quite a buy. He got what looks to be a pretty good bargain on it. And another sign that, Leo is betting on downtown. He cited the back to work trend as a reason for jumping in on the pantry, and this certainly would dovetail with that. So interesting times.
On the live with Jerry Sullivan at The Real Deal, the authoritative commercial real estate site. I drove by that building that Leo Pasilnikov bought that you mentioned, Pac Mutual. That is a beautiful building, very ornate bronze lettering there on the front. I drove by on the 6th Street side just today, so here it is in the news. So he's really taken a big stake in the downtown core, in addition to the original pantry, which was previously owned by the late, great, the Honorable Richard J. Reardon, the former mayor of Los Angeles. He's taken a stake in other properties there in the Skid Row area, right?
Yes, and he also, as long as Leo's the subject, he also just got another clearance in Beverly Hills for one of his projects there that were enabled by builder's remedy. And so that's another step forward for him on that front. Our Lauren Schramm broke a story this week about another builder's remedy project. While Beverly Hills appears to be on a roll of approving those and sort of giving up the ghost on trying to oppose them, they are holding out on a project by Max Nettie that would be just south of Wilshire on Rodeo. And this gets into a change that was made in the plan, and whether that still qualifies for the builder's remedy exemption that, of course, allows developers to go around local zoning. So you could check that story by Lauren Schramm on our site and get caught up on that. But it's an interesting sort of counterpoint to the broader trend in Beverly Hills right now.
Right, and certainly big news in Beverly Hills. I see Rick Caruso speaking out about ULA. Of course, he's been opposed to it right from the beginning, along with Lou Horn from CBRE, who consider ULA a total disaster. It was sold as a so-called mansion tax, but has impacted commercial real estate in a big way. So now there's talk at LA City Hall about some relief in the face of the massive rebuilding effort here now, and all these transactions that are taking place in the Palisades and Malibu and so forth. The Palisades especially, since that's part of Los Angeles. What do we need to know about where things stand with the ULA right now?
Well, ULA, I think the proposal to roll it back by Mayor Bass was limited to people affected by the burn zone, or in the burn zone affected by the wildfires in the Palisades. And, of course, the Altadena fire is not in the city of Los Angeles, so this would apply to the Palisades, and as Measure ULA only applies to the city of Los Angeles. So it's limited by city, by geography, by effect. So I think there's some opposition from some quarters who just feel like any attempt to tinker with that in any way would be a rollback. And, of course, the real estate, a lot of real estate interests and individuals would like to see it rolled back, but there are constituencies for keeping it firmly in place as is. Our Kerry Hamanako was out at a Bloomberg conference, and it was actually about media and tech, but Rick Caruso spoke about a number of things beyond those subjects. And I think it was shortly before he took the stage there that he had met with Mayor Bass, and Mayor Bass shortly after that announced the rollback. But, Caruso did not pull any punches in his comments. He essentially said that LA is redlined right now in terms of development, but developers do not want to deal with it. Measure ULA has complicated it, and, that really starts to hurt the housing pipeline. And when you look at that, our Chris Malone-Mendez just did a piece about Donald Bren and the Irvine Company. He's got 9,000 units in the pipeline, and, of course, none of that is city of Los Angeles. He's talking about Orange County, San Diego, and up in San Jose, up in the Bay Area. And so you're starting to see the long-term effect play out here, and it doesn't look good for Los Angeles right now.
Looks like Altadena got new attention this week thanks to that Powerball winner who apparently used to live in Altadena. This guy, Edwin Castro, buying up burned Altadena lots, trying to make a dent in the rebuilding effort there. Of course, all the burned areas, the relief, the rebuilding effort has been very, very slow. But that's an interesting story too, Jerry. This the Powerball winner buying these lots in Altadena, destroyed by the Eaton fire in January.
Yes, it is an interesting story, and I think it might be a very nice story. And this fellow is not saying, I'm going to give this away. He and his brother have a business, and they want to do these developments and sell new homes in the area. Has made it very clear, look, there are some people who aren't interested in rebuilding there. They want to sell. Well, we're willing buyers. And when we then develop and sell back into the market, I think the way roughly how he put it is we're not looking to make an obnoxious killing on this, but we are doing this for profit. And so I think, that might actually be the healthiest thing that could happen in this situation if he sticks to that and delivers these things at reasonable margins.
All right. Before I let you off the hook, Graffiti Towers, I sent you some new pictures, I guess, in the last week or two, Jerry. Every time I drive by there, I think of you. And I know you had there was some report of some movement on a possible sale of those towers there, which continue to be an eyesore, the unfinished billion-dollar, originally Chinese-run project in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, of course, across from Crypto Arena. What's the latest on Graffiti Towers?
And it seems to have gone radio silent, so we'll have to see. And I've not picked up on any, what would seem to be strong or legitimate indicators on real viable candidates. There's said to be a few out there. We'll see. A deal like this, I'm sure, would take a lot of time, and I'm sure it's the kind of deal that might get right up to the finish line and fall through. And so you may try 3 times before it goes through. But, Frank, the clock is ticking on the Olympics. And, it sure would be a shame to have that sitting on the skyline in its current state when the world comes to visit Los Angeles. But, I don't see a lot of forward action. I don't see much in the way of ideas or anything else. I really think, city, public, private sector, civic engagement, entrepreneurial spirit really need some creative thinking on this. You got a 3-tower mess in the middle of your downtown. I think we're going to need more than just a transactional mindset on this. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to have a whole forum, a whole discussion on that someday, Jerry. That would be fun, too, and look forward to seeing you out here for your various conferences coming up as well. Jerry Sullivan, National Managing Editor of The Real Deal. That's the authoritative commercial real estate news site. You have a lot of fans here, Jerry, and, of course, previously Jerry served as editor of the LA Business Journal, the OC Business Journal. Jerry, thank you very much for taking the call live with us here this afternoon.
It's always my pleasure, Frank. You have a good evening.
You too. And a great weekend to you, Jerry. And out to the freeways we go now on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC. Turning now to the Main Street economy. The government shutdown dragging on, now tied for the 3rd longest in history. Looks like this thing could go maybe past Thanksgiving. That's the latest buzz in Washington. Federal workers' paychecks remain suspended for the time being. A lot going on this week with the back and forth on tariffs and the job front.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Skip the traffic and ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express, your direct $2 base fare round-trip ride from the Culver City Transit Center at Westfield, Culver City. Buses run on weekend game days every 20 minutes starting 3 hours before kickoff, with return service beginning at the start of the 3rd quarter. And guess what else? We're hiring. Join our team and help keep the community moving. Visit culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500 for info on your next ride to the game or maybe your next job.
Bruin fans, fall is finally here. That means UCLA football is back in your life. Head out to the Rose Bowl to enjoy America's best tailgating and to make more unforgettable memories with the Bruins. Nico Iamaleava and the Bruins are ready to make an impact this year, and we need you cheering them at the Rose Bowl. Visit UCLABruins.com or call 310-UCLA-WIN to lock in your tickets today. 310-UCLA-WIN.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
Searching for an inside look at the people, stories, and passion that fuel the state of soccer in America?
Who's going to be the key man for the U.S. men's national team?
First and foremost, they need to win.
There's something so fun about being the underdog.
You're playing with house money almost.
But what does this success mean for the future of U.S. soccer?
Ooh, you're getting deep now.
This is where soccer will come to life.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Economy and the whole works. Let's bring in Mark Wilbur now, chairman of Employers Group here in Los Angeles, founding member and former chairman of the LA Business Federation, LA BizFed, former associate dean of the USC Marshall School of Business. Mark Wilbur, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
Wonderful to have you with us. Your fans at the City Club say hello, by the way. I was there at a big gathering today, and it was wonderful to get that elevated view of the city of Los Angeles on this gorgeous day with a lot going on Main Street and throughout the region. Give us your view of things here at the moment.
Gosh, there's so many things moving right now. I was actually surprised that the market went up today. I think that caught a lot of people off guard a little bit. Just given the state of the union right now with the shutdown, but people keep expecting like Trump is going to like cave in on this thing. But you got to keep in mind that wish list that Schumer, is basically posted on his door the vast majority of those things, Frank, are the very things that Trump won the popular vote on to say no to. So, I think his willingness to see this to the end is there. So I think it's going to get tougher. It's tough on business. It holds up, especially anybody that's impacted by the federal government or any kind of government activity is going to feel the pinch on this a little bit. And so, but businesses they're working fast and they're dealing with it. Neil Bradley, the executive vice president, policy officer at the Chamber of Commerce today said, we're starting to feel it now. Businesses are starting to feel it, and hopefully we can get to a resolution. It's got to be before Thanksgiving, Frank. My gosh.
Yeah, and of course now a lot of talk about these government reports that are not coming out, including the last jobs report, which is, as you've heard probably a million times me say, the big enchilada of monthly economic reports. Anecdotally now, I guess that's what we're going to have to go by. How is the job picture looking at the moment? And looks like those bond yields have come down this week a lot. And, of course, we saw a lot of volatility in the markets and a downdraft in crypto this week. So a lot of interesting dynamics here at the moment.
You and I both know the markets are guided in so many ways related to information. And when information starts to starve the beast, if you will, it's going to start having a negative impact, or people are going to start hedging to be more conservative and be careful with where they're placing their investments. So that's why I was kind of surprised today with the very positive influence. But I think that comes in two things. One, I think this meeting with President Xi in Korea that's going to be happening soon. I think there's a lot of positive thought coming with that. And then did you see, Frank, the Putin-Trump tunnel in the Bering Sea? Apparently that idea has been floated between the two of them. And I thought that was really interesting. That'd be like connecting Russia and America, kind of like Great Britain and France did with the channel.
That's interesting. Yeah, the president says he's going to think about the Kremlin-Russia-Alaska tunnel pitch, with the Russia proposing the Putin-Trump tunnel. So maybe because it was Putin's idea, I'm not sure that one's going to fly, but that is certainly very, very interesting. Looks like they're talking about maybe getting Elon Musk involved to help connect the nations under the Bering Strait and get the Boring Company involved. That's another one of Elon Musk's enterprises. So thanks for reminding me about that interesting story. And it looks like President Trump will meet with the Chinese leader. That there was certainly drama about that a week ago when we saw the market get washed out on concern about Russia. The U.S. and China trade tensions.
Yeah, and it's still going a little bit. I mean, we're still feeling, the threat of 100% increase in tariffs. This rare mineral thing is a big deal, but, to be honest, a lot of countries haven't really been looking, under their soil for these rare minerals that much. And a lot of it they can do through satellites. And we've already found massive reserves of lithium we didn't even know we had. And there's other rare minerals out there. The U.S. is scrambling to be competitive in this place, and Trump gets it. And I'm thankful he does. Otherwise, we could end up with one country, having control over rare minerals, which would be a bad thing.
Among the movers and shakers you interact with, what's the gut feeling here heading into the holiday season already as October starts to wind down? We're already talking about Thanksgiving here, and certainly my daughter's excited about Halloween. We just got the costume last night, so that's another boost for the economy right there. What's buzz are you picking up on how the economy's shaping up here for the end of the year?
Given all this craziness that's been going on, I am absolutely happy to see that everybody's very positive. I mean, I went into a couple different Halloween stores and the shelves were empty. I mean, it was hard to find things that I needed, and it was really crazy. So, I have to believe. I look at things like that. I know it sounds maybe crazy, but there are indicators like that you can see whether or not how people are feeling. A couple of years ago, the shelves there were plenty full. And in fact, there were massive sales after Halloween just because people weren't buying because they were concerned about the economy and the inflation and craziness that was going on at that time.
Yeah. Well, as long as people are buying Halloween costumes for their pets, that's got to be a positive sign for the economy. That's one of the indicators we've seen in the past. And, well, I'm right there with you, Mark. So thank you very much for taking the call live with us here. A lot to unpack here today. So
you bet.
Look forward to speaking with you again soon. Have a great weekend. Mark Wilbur.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you very much. Mark Wilbur, chairman of Employers Group in Los Angeles, founding member and former chair of LA BizFed, and former associate dean of the USC Marshall School of Business. Live with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang, and I'll be back with more at 4 on Monday afternoon. Positive finish for the stock market today. The Dow up 238 at the bell. The S&P 500 up 35 with the NASDAQ up 117. The VIX index slipping 18%. Bitcoin taking a tumble this week, right now at 107,183.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.